Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Mullen, and on behalf of ACRL and Choice, I'm delighted to welcome you to today's exciting program, eBooks and Libraries, Navigating the Digital Landscape, featuring speaker Scott Wasinger and sponsored by EBSCO. Today's webinar is one of the first in a new series of sponsored webinars from ACRL and Choice that will address new ideas, developments, and products of interest to the academic library community. Free to users, these structured 60-minute live presentations will provide a new opportunity for interactive discussions of important new issues and developments in academic librarianship by librarians, vendors, authors, and other interested stakeholders. What's new and distinctive about this series is the audience. This is the first series of this type directed toward the nearly 12,000 ACRL members and 15,000 Choice users and fans that collectively comprise perhaps the single largest and most important audience in academic librarianship today. Important issues and products deserve lively, candid, and informed discussion, and this is something we believe this new program and this audience will deliver in spades. It's a program that offers something for everyone. For librarians, it offers an opportunity to learn about and discuss new ideas, issues, and products. For sponsors, it offers an opportunity to receive unfiltered and direct feedback from the most knowledgeable audience in the academic library community. And for the academic library community itself, it offers another forum for addressing common solutions to common problems and taking advantage of common opportunities. Here at Choice, we are very excited to be working with our ACRL colleagues to bring thought-provoking, high-quality content to the world of academic libraries and look forward to today's program. Before we get started, I'd like to point out a few features of the webinar software. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. Along the left-hand side, you will also see a Q&A panel that you can use to submit questions or comments. We have some time today reserved at the end of the program to respond to your questions, so please feel free to submit these throughout the program. And finally, please note that today's program will be recorded and all registrants will receive follow-up instructions on how to access the archived version. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker, Scott Wasinger, Vice President of Sales for eBooks and audiobooks at EBSCO Publishing. Prior to EBSCO Publishing entering the eBook market in 2010, Scott spent 5 years managing OCLC's eBook business. With his previous 13 years at IHS, Scott brings over 20 years of e-content experience to bear in creating the best eBook and audiobook solutions for libraries worldwide. We will be joined later in today's program by Marcy Brown, also of EBSCO, for our question and answer period. But for now, we're ready to turn it over to you, Scott.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Laura, and thanks to all of the participants for joining us today. I'm very, very excited to have the opportunity to talk to you about eBooks and all that's happening in the eBook world. As you see on this first slide, it clearly shows EBSCO eBooks. And yes, I will be talking from an EBSCO perspective, but we'll be working to make it as broad a coverage of eBooks as possible. To start, I want to consider some questions that we will address throughout the session. First, PDA is all we really need, right? Kind of sounds like a Beatles song. And I'll give you a hint. The answer is no. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Very exciting what's going on with PDA. Lot that can be done with it, but there's more to it. Secondly, how to simplify ordering and collection management. What fees should I reasonably expect to pay when purchasing eBooks? What do my users expect? And lastly, how can I be assured of ongoing access and perpetuity when I purchase eBooks? Plenty of other questions that we'll address throughout as well, but this is just to give you an idea of some of what we will cover. So with all these changes that are taking place in the ebook world, it can feel a bit crazy. Things are moving very quickly, but it's a good thing. All of these changes are making it easier for you to select the right business models or collection development options, to make it easier for you in terms of streamlining library workflow, to maximize budget through the variety of choices that you have, to optimize the end user experience, and to meet current and ongoing content needs. Now, any ebook provider that's out there now or that may pop up in the future might be strong in, say, 1, 2, 3, and 5. But it's really, really important whenever you're making your ebook choices, your ebook decisions, that the provider is strong across all of these areas. Because if it happened to be strong in 1, 2, 3, and 5, but it wasn't an optimal end user experience, it's all for naught, because you're not going to have the usage, the adoption, and the ultimate value that you would expect from these ebooks. So let's start with options for selecting the right business models. Essentially, we're talking about 3 models, broadly speaking, that are available in the ebook world today: subscription, outright purchase for ownership, patron-driven purchase, or patron-driven short-term loan, sometimes also referred to as demand-driven purchase or demand-driven short-term loan. So which of these is best? Which should you select? And I realize many of you are already actively participating in some of these, but the point that I would make strongest on this slide is that these models complement each other. PDA is all we really need, right? Not exactly. We'll talk about the strengths for each of these. Each of them have tremendous strengths, and they definitely complement each other. Let's start with a quick look at subscription. So what is the benefit of an ebook subscription collection? 3 broad benefits. 1, huge collection of titles, as we'll see. 2, unlimited user access. Back to the questions at the beginning, what do my users expect? Well, they expect the ebook to be available. They expect to be able to access it when they need it, not to have to wait, not to have to be put in a queue. And that's one of the huge advantages of an ebook subscription collection, where all of the titles are unlimited user, unlimited concurrent user. And then 3, the annual subscription price is a tiny, tiny fraction of what it would cost to purchase all of the titles in the collection. This is a look at our EBSCO ebook academic subscription collection as it currently stands at over 118,000 titles. Again, all unlimited user. And just to give you a really condensed version of a comparison to the alternative product that is available in the market for academic libraries, we have 36% more titles, so 118,000 compared to 86,000. But of course, we're not just talking about quantity. There are quality and value measures that are important as well. Our collection, subscription collection, is a 46% greater value, which is measured in terms of the publisher's list price for all titles in the collection. So it's not a creative calculation by any means. It's taking the publisher's list price for purchasing each of those titles on a one-user model, and you see a substantial value difference there. 48% more university press titles. 27% more titles published 2009 forward, and 10% more 2012 titles. Now, I realize we have a number of community colleges participating in today's session as well. We have similar statistics that we can provide if you're interested in receiving them for our community college collection, which is currently 48,000 titles, which is 61% more than the alternative. And we have the same type of comparison points across these other areas and can provide much more detail for anyone who is interested, both for the academic subscription collection as well as for the community college subscription collection. Apologies, let me back up here. I was looking at a question, hence the pause. PDA, a question about what PDA stands for. And I'm going to be coming back to PDA in a minute, but to address that question while it's in front of me, PDA stands for Patron-Driven Acquisition, sometimes also referred to as DDA, Demand-Driven Acquisition. And I will explain that in more detail here in a few slides ahead. So that's a look at the subscription collection. And again, I was talking about three broad areas: subscription, purchase, patron-driven. So if subscription is all of these great things, why not just go with subscription? Well, subscription is, in fact, a tremendous value, a great option, a great way to establish a large base collection, providing a great user experience with the unlimited user access. But not all publishers participate in the subscription model, and for those publishers that do participate in the subscription model, they don't necessarily include all of their titles. So in addition to the subscription collection, it is worthwhile for you to consider the outright purchase model. Under the purchase model, there are multiple ways that you can purchase ebooks when it comes to EBSCO ebooks. There are the options to purchase subject sets, featured collections, custom collections, or you can always select title by title. You're never required to purchase a collection to get the title you want. We just provide these collection options to make it easier and help guide your selection process. We provide 3 different concurrent user levels under our EBSCO purchase model, and similarly, when looking at all of your ebook options, you should look for these types of different variable options to choose from: 1 user, 3 user, and unlimited user. All of our titles are available 1 user. Most are available 3 and unlimited, but not all publishers participate in those models. Again, back to one of the questions in the second slide, or the first slide after the cover. What do my users expect? Well, similar to the subscription unlimited user, there are many options for a purchase model unlimited user. Also, under the purchase model, we make it very simple and straightforward with a one-time price, and that's it, no fees at all. So back to the questions, what fees should I reasonably expect to pay? None at all. You should not have to pay any fees associated with purchasing ebooks. That should become the standard. That is how EBSCO provides its ebooks. And when you purchase ebooks, you own them and have access to them in perpetuity. More on that later. So a review of some of these different collection options that are made available to you, if it does make it easier for you to make your selections to purchase ebooks. We at EBSCO have a dedicated team of collection development librarians that create these collections to make it easier. One option is subject sets. These are collections developed in high-demand subject areas, front list, no overlap from set to set. There are over 100 available, but this is a look at some of the recently released subject sets. Most libraries, these are very popular, and most libraries will select the complete collections and order them as complete collections. But again, you always have the option to go in and pick and choose the titles that you want from these collections, if it makes it easier to go about it in that way rather than starting off title by title. On top of the option to view subject sets, we also offer featured collections, which tend to be larger than subject sets. They aren't necessarily aligned with specific subject areas. They could be focused on other areas like duties, core titles, 2013. They could be aligned with EBSCO database products like our CINAHL collection, our business book summaries companion collection, and you see some other examples here. You can also view the complete list at the URL shown, and we, of course, would be happy to, if you contact your EBSCO representative or me, provide you with more details on these. And again, these you can order the whole thing if you want, any one of these complete collections, or use it to begin to guide your selection process and pick and choose titles accordingly. Custom collection option is another possibility for you to consider. It's available for larger orders, which we define as more than $5,000. And in this case, you simply provide us with your collection development parameters or criteria, and our specialists, our collection development librarians, will then create a list of recommended titles, which you then can go through and make your selections from. And there, of course, is, as I said before, always the option to select title by title, whether you start with collections, you order collections, or you make your individual title selections out of those collections, or you go in and do a search and just begin picking your titles individually in that way. That is always an option for you. And we will talk more later about how you can go about doing that. Again, as you see here, under our purchase model, 1 user, 3 user, and unlimited user, we're very clear about that. We don't throw out a multiple user, which might mean unlimited in some cases, might mean free in some cases, might mean something else. It's very clearly 1, 3, and unlimited user. So the purchase model option is, and has been, is, and I think will continue to be an important part of any ebook collection development strategy. It is where most publishers make their content available. In other models, some publishers are a bit more conservative and reluctant to participate, and it is the way to ensure that you are purchasing and owning and providing access to an ebook in perpetuity. Whereas subscription, the very nature of a subscription is it's dynamic, it is subject to change, and under patron-driven acquisition, not all publishers participate in patron-driven acquisition models, and even if a given publisher does, and you add a title to a PDA list, but then that subsequently, a month later, that publisher loses rights with its author, so the title becomes deactivated. It has not yet been triggered in the PDA, and you've therefore lost your chance to purchase and own and have access in perpetuity to this title. So that aside, the PDA, patron-driven acquisition or demand-driven acquisition, can be a really good option and a good complement in that its strongest point, it ensures that you only purchase titles when they're used. It effectively assures 100% circulation. Very important point, you control which titles are included in the PDA. So sometimes when we talk about PDA, and I should and will back up and explain exactly how PDA works, because just to make sure that everyone is completely clear about PDA. But an important point is that you control what's included, because there are sometimes concerns that you might end up purchasing content that you didn't really want for your library under the PDA. And that should not happen when you're making your decisions up front as to what is included in the PDA. The way the PDA works is you determine up front, or we can help you determine which PDA eligible titles, so which titles from publishers that participate in the PDA program you want to make available to your users under a PDA. And once you determine which titles you want to make available under the PDA, you make those titles discoverable and accessible to your users. It's completely transparent to them that they're part of a PDA. To your users, it simply looks like these are titles that are part of my library's collection. And it's not until meaningful use, a certain type of use occurs, that the title is automatically triggered for purchase or for a short-term loan. The purchases are limited to the budget that you establish. So you can either establish a deposit account, or you can establish a budget amount and be invoiced as you go. You have the option in the case of EBSCO to go either way, and in either case, you can be assured that you're not spending any more than you've set aside in the deposit account or that you've established for in the budget that you've created. And in each case, you can also create alerts so that you're notified when you're approaching your you're approaching your budget, or when your deposit account is nearing depletion. What constitutes meaningful use? Meaningful use or triggers under a PDA occur if any of the following happens: more than 10 minutes active use in the full text of an ebook. And active use is an important point here, because if a user opens up an ebook and they get distracted and open another window on their computer, they open a window in their office to let some air in, they get a phone call, they walk away, then they should not be, the title should not be triggered for purchase. So the way we define active use is something has to occur in the EBSCO ebook viewer, some activity after the 10-minute mark, so that we can be assured that it was in fact active use. So more than 10 minutes active use in the full text, more than 10 page views in the full text, downloading the entire ebook, printing any portion, or saving any portion of the full text. If any of these occur, the title is automatically purchased or short-term loan, depending on what you have set up. Just like the outright purchase model, under the PDA purchase model, you have the options to set up a PDA to trigger, when titles are triggered, to have them triggered for purchase at 1, 3, or unlimited concurrent users. We also make available, as I said, the option for patron-driven short-term loan. So instead of purchasing a title when triggered, you would license the title for 1, 7, 14, or 28 days. And to keep it interesting, there's also the option, which is a combination of the two, what we're referring to here as loan to own. In this case, you could start out with short-term loan, and then after a predetermined number of short-term loans occur, the next trigger would constitute a purchase. In other words, for example, you could create a list of titles and say you want to make them available for 7-day short-term loan, and specify that 3 short-term loans can occur. So after 3 short-term loans have been triggered, the 4th trigger would trigger a purchase at whatever level you specify, 1, 3, or unlimited user. And all of this just in the interest of making multiple options available. Now, shifting to ways in which ebook providers should, and ways in which EBSCO is striving to streamline library workflow, a very important component of this is options for ordering and managing your ebook collection. So back to the question on the first slide, how to simplify ordering and collection management. Well, the way in which we are working to simplify ordering and collection management, and sorry, I'm hesitating there because I'm watching the poll results as I speak. We are working to provide you with the best options through the tools that you're using now, whether it be Coutts Oasis from Ingram's, YBP's Gobi, or our own equivalent of that, ECM, EBSCO Host Collection Manager. So starting from the bottom, I'll note that while as you can see, YBP's Gobi represents, I think, the largest proportion in terms of tool used to order ebooks and manage ebook collections and set up PDAs. We realize that Coots Oasis is the tool of choice for many institutions, as well as for many individual selectors within institutions that might otherwise be broadly users of another resource. So from the bottom up, we are working closely with Ingram, Coots. And I always struggle when I say that because I think the standard that's most recognizable to everyone is Coots Oasis, but they are a part of Ingram, so I kind of mash them all together when I can. But anyway, we've been working with and are working closely with Ingram, Coots on finalizing our first release of the availability of EBSCO ebooks through Oasis. The testing is progressing well, and we're targeting June timeframe to make our first phase of ebooks available through Oasis, which would be at a one-user purchase model. And then later in the late summer or fall timeframe, we expect to make our other models available through Oasis. So we're very excited about that. With regard to Gobi, we have worked with YBP for a long, long time, have a great long-standing relationship, but we've really tightened that relationship in the last 12, 18 months in a number of different ways. So we make all of our purchase and PDA options available through Gobi. We've done a lot to expedite the availability of our content through Gobi. So whereas we used to send feeds weekly, we're sending daily feeds of our new titles. We're sending pre-pub titles now, where we've identified the top publishers through Gobi, and we're turning around those titles as quickly as possible. If you're not already ordering, if you're a user of Gobi and you're not already ordering EBSCO ebooks through Gobi, you can see this URL on the screen that is a very short video. I think it's like 60 seconds that gives you a quick look at how easy it is to set up and order EBSCO ebooks through Gobi. We've also worked to make the whole process as simple as possible in terms of, for example, pricing, ensuring that what you see in your search result list is it. Again, it's just a one-time price for purchase and nothing more, no fees. So that's become an increasingly popular choice for many libraries to use Gobi to order their EBSCO ebooks, and we encourage you to take a look at that more closely if you aren't already doing so. Yet another consideration is ECM, EBSCO Host Collection Manager. ECM has been made available as a resource very similar to Oasis or Gobi. One, for libraries who are not already using one of those resources, or two, as a secondary resource, even for those libraries who are using Gobi or Oasis. There are many Gobi users who are using ECM as a secondary resource because there are some different views, there are some different things that you can do within ECM, and so it can be a nice supplement or complement to Gobi. Even if you continue to place your orders through Gobi, you can get different views, such as clicking on collections here and having the ability to look at healthcare management knowledge featured collection, for example, to help guide some of your title selection efforts. The ability to browse quite easily by publisher, to perform searches across multiple fields, to perform expanded or advanced searches, applying a number of different search parameters, as you can see here: language, list price, publication year, upload date if you just want to see titles that were added in the last month, for example, based on your other search criteria, and a number of other filters you see here associated with content type. You'll get a similar look and feel here to EBSCO host and user interface in this ECM librarian interface, and that with search results you can refine off to the left here your search results. You click on the title from a search result list. We get more detailed information on the title as you see here. We have the option to click on the unlimited user button and we'll see the other options, 3 user, 1 user. We'll see the associated pricing for those. We can preview the title just as we can on Gobi. Down below the line, below eISBN, we show LCC, DOI, language, and whether or not the title is downloadable in its entirety. And just a few more views here to give you a good taste for what can be done in ECM. The different access level options, 1 user, 3 user, unlimited, and then the different loan periods. And lastly here, the option, as I'd mentioned before, if you set up a patron-driven short-term loan, to specify if it's loan only, the number of short-term loans that can be triggered. In this case, we say it's loan only and 3, so after 3 short-term loans, that's it. No more can be triggered. Or we say that we want it to be loan to own, and we specify again 3 short-term loans, after which we want the 4th trigger to actually trigger a purchase at 1 user. If you don't already have ECM and you're interested in it, let me know, and we would be happy to get you set up. So just a few more points with regard to streamlining workflow. We talked about ordering options, and that's very important. On top of that, there are the options to save chapters as PDFs, which can be quite useful for the library when you get a student request or a faculty request for a chapter, and then you perhaps aren't necessarily looking to access the entire ebook, but would like to just receive a downloaded PDF of a chapter. That can be useful. Chapter and page level permalinks have been quite popular for use in electronic course packs. So it's very, very easy to create a permalink or a durable URL, not just at the title level, which is pretty standard, but at the page or chapter level. Free full OCLC MARC records. Huge, huge PDA efficiencies for libraries using EDS, EBSCO Discovery Service. So if you set up a PDA, you, in many cases, have a good deal of MARC record management on your hands. In other words, you typically would, if you are adding, 10,000, 20,000 PDA titles to your collection, most libraries would want to add MARC records to make those titles discoverable and accessible. But you would also want to customize those MARC records to note that they're untriggered PDA titles. And then when you add more titles to your PDA, you'd add more MARC records the same way and have them customized. And then in the meantime, if 100 titles got triggered for purchase, you might want to change those MARC records to reflect the fact that they're no longer PDA untriggered titles, but that they're purchased and owned titles. And by the way, 2 days later, 20 titles are deactivated, so you have to remove those MARC records. So you get the point that there can be a good deal of MARC record management associated with PDAs. And in the case of EDS, if you're doing a PDA with EBSCO and you have EDS, you can shortcut that altogether, and that as soon as you identify the titles and make them available under the PDA, they're discoverable and accessible through EDS with no need to do any of that MARC record work. Now, some libraries will still choose to add the MARC records for the triggered titles, but even with that, it's a huge time and cost savings versus having to do all the upfront MARC record work. And then lastly, a single administrative module, that is EBSCO admin. So you know, the library knows EBSCO admin, uses EBSCO admin, so we're not talking about a completely separate admin module for EBSCO eBooks. It's the same EBSCO admin for eBooks as it is for EBSCO's databases. And through EBSCO admin, you have the options to run your usage statistics, general ebook database level type usage statistics, as well as very ebook specific counter usage reports, book reports 1, 3, and 6. And then on top of the options to run your usage statistics, you can run or manage your checkout settings as shown here, and the ability to completely configure maximum checkouts per user, checkout duration, to enable holds, which means holds functionality, if enabled, will give users a message saying if it's a one-user title and it's in use, the message would say this title is in use, would you like to be notified when it becomes available, versus just getting a message saying sorry, title is in use. Shift now to maximizing budget. So we talked about subscription, and we'll just look at these different options and how they can work together. A quick recap as it relates to making your budget dollars go as far as they possibly can. Subscription is a tremendous value in that it at a very low cost provides unlimited user access to a very large number of titles. That, of course, can and should be complemented with a purchase option, which assures that you own and will always have access to the title. And the budget consideration here is that, again, there are no markups, no fees of any sort. And then PDA rounds everything out nicely by assuring you're only purchasing what gets used under your PDA program, all working together to stretch your dollar as far as it can go. So once again, what fee should I reasonably expect to pay? None, none, none. In the case of EBSCO, it's a one-time publisher suggested list price, and that's it. And again, we also provide free OCLC mark records for every title. One other point with regard to maximizing budget, and that is as it relates to consortia benefits. The greatest value that can be recognized by a consortium is through the subscription, through the deep discounting that we can provide to groups that order the subscription collections together. There's also an option to order purchase model titles at a discount for those publishers that participate in this model. And we're happy to provide you with any more details on that if you're interested. Shifting now to the end user experience. So we could be great on all these other points leading up to this, but if it's not a good experience for your end users, then it's not going to be a worthwhile consideration for you. So as we said before, you know, and as we saw in the first slide, what do your users expect? Well, part of it is access to the eBooks. You know, where available, unlimited user access. In addition to that, it's simplicity. It's making it as easy as possible for them and the overall best user experience. One way we make it easier at EBSCO is we're not talking about a completely separate ebook platform that they have to go to, ebook platform that they have to use or that you have to support and manage. EBSCO eBooks are fully integrated into EBSCO Host. Most, if not all, of your users already know and use EBSCO Host. So it's simply a matter of using the same resource, applying the same familiarity, workflow, thought processes to eBooks as they have been to databases for EBSCO. In addition, there's also the option to search across all content types and to get integrated search results showing both journal, for example, journal results and ebook results. some of the other things your users expect and that we are providing. Access from and download to mobile devices. The ability to download complete ebooks or entire ebooks to compatible devices. The ability to download chapters, pages, or page ranges to any device, and that they're open PDFs. EPUB. EPUB has become increasingly important. Now, up until about a month ago, 2 months ago, 100% of our titles were in PDF format. And PDF today continues to be the predominant format for academic ebooks, I would say, but EPUB, rightly so, is rapidly gaining ground. So we have begun to introduce EPUB format at EBSCO. Why is it important? Well, from a user experience standpoint, it provides a much better offline experience for downloaded ebooks. The ebooks reflow, the text reflows at the title level. Complex formatting, charts, graphs, tables render more cleanly in EPUB format than in PDF. It provides the underlying technology to do more over time with the content as well. For example, in terms of embedding applications or intelligent content into the ebooks, provides for more accessibility options, better ways to serve accessibility needs. When it comes to certain non-Roman languages, EPUB provides more options, for example, vertical page layout for certain Asian languages, or right-to-left page progression for certain Arabic languages. So a lot that it does on the end user front immediately as well as over time. And that is why we've begun to introduce EPUB now. We're in the very early stages of that. We will begin adding EPUB in earnest, I'd say, in another probably 2 months' time. And by the end of this calendar year, we expect to we expect to probably be at about 50% of our newly added titles in EPUB format, and that proportion should grow rapidly thereafter. So I think that covers EPUB, and I'm just looking at the results. It's interesting. And yeah, it's I think still early days in many respects for EPUB in the academic library market, but that I think will begin changing rapidly, and you will begin to see some of the big differences between EPUB and PDF as EPUB becomes more predominant. Moving on from EPUB, I'll also note extensive citation support, permalink options, as I'd mentioned before, and I'll talk about here in 2 slides again with an illustration. For those of you not familiar with, not currently using the interface, I'm showing here one of the options. One, of course, is basic search or full search. Another is a more browse-based and visual ebook landing page. I'm going to look here at the ebook viewer with a permalink clicked to highlight that we can very easily get a durable URL, which can be useful, again, for end users. It can be useful for the library, for faculty, directly to this chapter or to this page level. And the last point that I'll highlight with regard to the end user experience is the very flexible and generous print allowances and PDF download options. So users, without being logged in, can simply choose to click the print button, and we'll see here that we have the option to print 60 pages, and that's the case for most publishers, up to 60 pages, and that's per title, per user, per session. I can click on this section. The system is smart, so I don't have to try to figure out a page range. I can see that either at part 1 or at the subsection here that it's 14 pages, and then I can either send that as an email to someone else, to myself, or I can click print PDF, in which case I can save the PDF, or it will open a PDF of that page range, or chapter. As you can see, it's an open PDF. It has a very subtle EBSCO host watermark that doesn't intrude at all on the reading experience of the text here. It includes a copyright stamp down the left-hand side and a detail stamp at the bottom with the time, date, and library from which the file was created. Lastly, I'll move here to meeting content needs. We're constantly working to expand quality content options for libraries to select from. We're always adding more content from the publishers that we already have relationships with, as well as signing on new publishers. We're currently at over 900 parent publishers, a lot more when you consider the imprint publishers. We have over 407,000 total titles available, ebook titles. That doesn't include audiobooks. And we've signed more than 100 publishers in the past year. We continue to grow by market, by subject area, certain non-English languages we're actively growing. We're focused on multiple countries to grow as well. And so just really across the board, we're always looking for opportunities to grow content. We're always soliciting your input and feedback on where we should be focusing these efforts. I note EPUB here again because not only is it important from a user experience perspective or standpoint, as I was talking about earlier, but also there are certain publishers that only work in EPUB format. So by us moving into EPUB, it's going to open a lot of doors in terms of new content, which is a good thing for libraries. Look here at just a sampling of some of the more popular academic publishers. And one last check back to the questions on the first slide. How can I be assured of ongoing access in perpetuity? Well, this slide here. You should expect this of any ebook provider that you're working with. When you purchase ebooks and you own them and you're told you have ongoing access to them in perpetuity, no matter how solid and stable the company is, because I can tell you we feel that EBSCO is very, very stable, solid. EBSCO hosts has world-class technology, redundancy, and backup. But even so, you should say, what if EBSCO host goes away? And if EBSCO host were to ever go away, you are assured ongoing access to your purchased ebooks in that they're maintained in a third-party dark archive. And it doesn't do for us or for anyone to say, oh, no, we've got it covered. Oh, we've got great backup. Oh, we've got a redundancy, in another state or another country. No, it is really, really important that it be a third-party dark archive, and that is the case with EBSCO ebooks. And I have to slip in here at the very end before we move to questions. Just very briefly, the fact that we do also offer audiobooks, which isn't as broadly known as it could be. And I've found that many academic institutions are acquiring digital audiobooks, but much more than I would expect, I guess is the way I should put it. Some for the academic content, mostly for the popular content, and then also for accessibility purposes, for language learning purposes, or under PDA, in which case you can try it out and see and let your users determine why you might be acquiring the content. And just again, very briefly, we have around 20,000 audiobooks, 100% device compatibility, including all Apple devices. Some of the more popular publishers you see here: Simon & Schuster, AudioGo, BBC, Blackstone, Tantor, Highbridge, and so on. And all of the audiobooks completely integrated into the EBSCO host interface, so very simple, straightforward, positive user experience. And it's interesting to see, we had about 16% of those who responded in this group saying that they are actively acquiring digital audiobooks. So with all of that, just as a recap, things are changing very rapidly across the ebook landscape, and it's exciting. They're changing in a positive way. It's moving in a direction, and EBSCO absolutely is moving in a direction to provide you with more and better options. And in our case, the best options to select the right business models, to simplify and streamline your library workflow, to make it easy for you to maximize your budgets, to optimize and provide the best end user experience, and to meet your users' content and your institution's content needs. So with that, we'll move to the Q&A section with approximately 10 minutes left here. And we'll try to get through as many of these questions as we can. However, if we're not able to get to your question, please contact your EBSCO representative after this event, or by all means, feel free to send an email to me at the address shown on the screen here. And with that, I thank you all very, very much, and we'll turn it over to Marcy Brown. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. We have a lot of good questions here. The first one may sound out of context. I hope you can understand what it means. It says, does that mean unlimited checkout?
Okay, and that's probably with regard to unlimited concurrent use. So in the case of, say, for example, if you were to purchase an unlimited user title, a collection of titles, or subscribe to a collection that's all unlimited user, that means that, yes, there could be an unlimited number of eBooks checked out, or a given title could be checked out an unlimited number of times. However, when a title is checked out and downloaded, there still is the Adobe Digital Rights Management attached to that file, and that file still will become inaccessible or will expire at the end of the checkout period.
Thank you. 36% more titles than whom?
That was then the alternative provider, and since you asked, I will say it's eBury.
Okay, academic subscription versus alternative. What is the alternative? Purchasing each title individually or some other package?
Yeah, good question. And I was trying to be kind of politically correct there and diplomatic and not stating directly that when I say alternative, I'm talking about our competitor. It's eBury's academic subscription collection product. So, you know, eBury's had an academic subscription collection product in the market for a long, long time. And as we got into the ebook market, our academic advisors and customers asked us to make the same type of product available so there would be an alternative option. And that's what we've done. And we're very proud now I should say it differently, we're very happy now to show some of the differences in what a strong position our subscription offering is in.
Okay, here's a comment. I think the publication date information is misleading because I often come across titles with a 2012 date of publication, but the print edition of the same title is 2005 or older. I find this to be very frustrating.
Okay, that is an interesting comment, and that absolutely should not be the case. And I would ask you if any examples that you have, if you could please contact me, email those to me, because that is a problem with the publisher who provided the information to us that we will work with to correct, because I can absolutely assure you that the ebook publication year equates to the print publication year. I know that there have been some, smaller ebook providers that have popped up that have provided as a publication date like what they call born digital year, the year that it became available as an ebook, which is confusing and wrong. So that absolutely should not be happening. And I've only heard of a few very isolated cases where it's occurred just on a title level before, and we've worked with the publisher to correct it.
Okay, why not sell ebooks in unlimited user format only?
Oh, my goodness. I would love to do that, and it would be such a simpler world if we could get all of the publishers to agree to that. But it really comes down to that. It comes down to the publishers. And we continue to work with publishers, and we've made great strides in a number of different ways, across these business model options, across usage allowances and restrictions, but it continues to be an area of challenge for us in that there are some really important, really solid academic publishers who have not yet come around to agreeing to the unlimited user model. We will continue working at it, and I'm confident that we'll one day get there, but we're just not quite there yet.
Okay. Are the titles in the sets all included in the big academic collection?
There can be overlaps. When we say sets, I assume we're referring to subject sets or featured collections, and there can be overlap between the two, but we'd be happy to work with you to filter out any duplicates. So in other words, if you have the subscription collection and you wanted to get 3 of those subject sets we just showed, we can very easily do the analysis and filter out any duplicates for you.
Okay, so does UU mean unlimited checkouts? Several students could check out at one time?
Yes.
Okay. What are the cost differentials for each of the 3 user number categories?
That is a good question. So that is all driven by the publisher. And I can say on a very positive note that we're constantly working with publishers to provide the best options, terms, pricing. And I can say that we've seen with a number of publishers a move in a positive direction for the figures that I'm about to share with you. So in other words, some have reduced these multipliers. So to go from 1 user to 3 user, it typically varies from 1.25 to 1.5 depending on the publisher. To go from 1 user to unlimited user, it can vary from 1.5 to 2x or higher depending on the size of the institution and depending on the publisher.
Okay, do we have assurance that purchases from EBSCO are not duplicated in EBSCO's academic ebook subscription package?
So do we have assurance that we wouldn't be purchasing duplicates? Yes, and it's just the only hesitation in my voice is it's dependent on how you make the purchase. If you use ECM, EBSCO's collection manager, to make the purchase, titles are automatically flagged and it shows that you already have access to a title so that you wouldn't be at risk of purchasing something that you already have access to. If you do the same through a direct order to us, we can do the deduplication for you. If you go through Gobi, they should be able to do that deduplication for you as well.
Would clicking to refresh a screen be included as active use?
Clicking to refresh the screen, that would be a click not within the ebook viewer. That would be a click within the ebook browser, so no. It would have to be any activity is based on a click within the ebook viewer itself.
Does EBSCO provide a download the entire book option? I thought only a portion of an ebook was allowed for downloading.
Good question. We offer both options. So you can download a portion of an ebook up to 60 pages. And you can also, for most publishers, again, it's depending on the publisher, but if you look at like the academic subscription collection, I think it's a little over 90% of the titles in that collection are downloadable in their entirety. So for sure, the vast majority of our ebooks, in addition to being able to be downloaded in part, can be downloaded in their entirety as well.
Does Gobi 3 require a subscription? Is it what was previously called Gobi Gold? Or can one use Gobi 3 without a subscription?
I would have to defer to our friends at YBP on that. No, I don't think it requires any kind of a subscription, but we would need to talk to a representative there, or if the individual asking this question wants to direct it to us, we could explore that further to confirm exactly how they can get set up.
Okay, can we ask that person to please write to Scott at swasinger@ebscohost.com? That would be great. And then we'll follow up at that point. Can you set different loan terms for different titles?
Absolutely, yes. So there's flexibility to set it for different titles, and you can change it at any time as well.
Does EBSCO charge a hosting fee for ebooks like eBrary does?
No, absolutely not. So we don't charge any kind of hosting fee, platform fee, no fees at all, no download fee, any fee you can think of, we don't charge it. It's simply the publisher's list price, and that is it. And it looks like that is our last question, too. So a huge thanks again to everyone, and back to Marcy.
I think I have a whole lot more questions. Maybe you're not seeing my list. So
yeah, I do, but I think we're up on time.
Are we done with time? Okay, so we'll have to corral those questions, and then we'll find a way to get back to everybody on those. So thank you, Scott. And let's turn it back over to Laura.
Thank you, guys. Well, it looks like we are ready to wrap up our time together. I would like to give a virtual round of applause to Scott and Marcy for sharing some great info with all of us today. We really appreciate your time and your insights. As a reminder, we have recorded today's program, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email from ACRL and Choice that will include instructions on how to access the archived version. Thanks again to all of our participants for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's session and have a great rest of the day.